Alice.
Hi, family. My name is Alice, and I'm a grateful member of Alcoholics Anonymous. Man, I'm so happy to be here, but I'm not exactly thrilled about following Rick and Cyndi. Like, those were incredible talks on step 8, 9. And if you're hearing this, not live, but you're hearing this as a recording, I would strongly encourage you to go back and listen to Cyndi and Rick, like really extraordinary. My sobriety date's May 21st, 1987. I am always stunned that anybody asks me to show up and talk because I quite frankly have no idea. I'm sick of hearing me talk. So okay, but here we go. So I've got 30 minutes. So here's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna take the first 10 minutes or so and talk right out of the literature. And then I'm gonna take the rest of my time and put skin on and talk about how all of this looks in my life. The first thing that I want to say is that step 1 in Alcoholics Anonymous is the problem. And I strongly believe that unless I understand the problem, 100%, I'm not going to do the solution. I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to do it. I'm just not going to do. Why would I do that? And so I want to just acknowledge what the problem is. Because when I got here, I thought the problem was drinking, but it turns out that that was a symptom. The problem is threefold. The problem is that I'm bodily different than my fellows, that I've drank so much that I've changed my own body, and that when liquor is in me, I then no longer am able to control how much I take in. The second part of my first step problem, because there are 3 parts of it, is my mind. And on page 23 in the book Alcoholics Anonymous, it tells me that the problem centers in my mind. I've heard Teresa Fair say this, right? The scariest thing about the whole deal is that I can't trust my own thinking. Like, how horrible is that? I believe things that are not true. I lie to myself and don't know I'm doing it. And that has not for me gone away. I bear watching, which is what step 10 is about for me. But this mind that I have, right? It's a voice in my head that sounds like me, and she's a liar. And she tells me things that are not true, right? I'm on the Titanic, the ship is sinking, and I tell myself, if I rearrange the chairs, if I turn the cushions over, they'll be dry. It's the crazy in my mind. But the third part of my first step problem is the reason that I'm still here 36 years later, which is the disconnection, the delusion that I'm disconnected from the power. It turns out I can never be disconnected from the power, right? But I feel disconnected from God, or whatever the power is to you, right? And so then I'm disconnected from myself, and then I'm disconnected from the people around me. You know, it's a disease of loneliness, and what I want to do is cure that with isolation. And when I can see the problem, and I can see that I'm doomed, then I'm willing to at least consider what you're telling me about the solution. And the reason I say that is because I think step 10 in many ways is like the mother lode. Step 10 is step 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9. It's half the program. It's half the program. Over and over and over and over and over again. I never stop the work that I began in 4. But before I get to 4, let me tell you the truth. In step 2, I've come to understand that I have been living by faith all along. The book tells me that. Faith in my own reasoning. Well, here's the problem with that. I already determined I can't trust my own thinking. So that I have faith in something that's faulty. Well, that's the crazy show. And then in step 3, I realized that what I need to do is to get into this surrender. Now, there's a third step prayer, but there's no amen at the end of the prayer because I'm only opening a prayer. I'm not finishing a prayer. You know, I love what Rick said about the fellowship of the Spirit, right? You open with a prayer and you close with the prayer, and the whole rest of the event is you're actively in a prayer by your being, by your participation, by the way that you engage with yourself, with your fellows, and with God. And so in 3, I have seen, you know, in the book Alcoholics Anonymous, I'm sorry, this is where I'm at. In the book Alcoholics Anonymous, in the chapter How It Works, is step 3 and 4 together. Now, when we do these walk through the steps, we group step 4 and 5 together, but the book groups 2 and 3, because I need to see myself. And what does how it works tell me about myself? I'm selfish, I'm self-centered, I'm self-seeking. I'm not even the star of the show. I'm just an actor, but what do I want to do? Control everything. The lights, the ballet, the scenery. Hey, I want to control the other actors. Oh, what? Here's the truth. I couldn't control what I put in my own mouth. How am I control a whole nother person? But I can't see that because I think, you know, I sponsor, and that means I read the book, right? Man, War Fever ran high. I read War Fever ran high today, right? War Fever ran high. And when you go and you really read it, you can really see the hell that Bill is in. You know, my sumptuous apartment, people followed my advice to the tune, like this need to get validated by something outside me. Cyndi talked about it. That if my amends to you is because I need to validate myself through the amends with you, then that's all. That's not what we're doing here. And so I can see in 3 that the problem really is my bondage to myself. The horror of standing in the middle of my life and only seeing things from my point of view, which admittedly is twisted and flawed, admittedly. And I'm trapped there, bondage. And so then I go on and I move in the prayer that I opened in 3 with 4, 5, 6, and then I close it in 7. But then I do the work that they just talked about, right? I do that honest work that Rick and Cyndi have talked about. That, you know, I love the way that Rick said it. I do things I don't want to do to get stuff I didn't even know I wanted. Yeah, that's what I do. And then I get to 10. So here we are, 10. So 10 in the book of Alcoholics Anonymous, even though it's, I'd argue half the steps, right? It only takes up a page, and it's on page 84, the middle of the page. This thought, which thought? The thought of the 9-step promises. And what I think is beautiful about the 9-step promises is that the 9-step promises open with the word if we are painstaking. You see, my friends, is conditional. Do the work or don't do the work. But if you're painstaking, not doing what is comfortable, not doing what I want to do, if I'm painstaking. And then how do the 9-step promises end? Oh, I'm going to read it to you. Are these extravagant promises? We think that. They are being fulfilled among us, sometimes quickly, sometimes slowly. They will always materialize. When? If we work for them. And the thing that I love about if, my favorite word in the big book, is because if gives me the power of choice, the exercise of the free will that I've been given. If I do the work, I can be free. If I don't do the work, I can be here and be dry. I can have sobriety, right? And let me just say, nobody really wants that. I actually think it's worse to not drink and be here and be miserable, right? No. But this not, y'all not gonna like this. The young people, sorry if you knew, sorry. Cyndi talked about it. I can only recover at the pace that I'm capable of recovering at. And I can't see all of my problems at once. I blow my brains out. And I can't make all my amends at once. I can't do an exhaustive inventory at once. It comes to me gradually as I am ready. It's a lifelong process. So then this thought brings us to 10. The thought that life can be amazing if you work for it. That's the thought. Life can be extraordinary if you work for it. Extraordinary if you work for it. Then it tells me, which suggests, now I'm not going to tell you what to do, but if you want what I want, this is what I did. That's you could do the Chinese menu in Alcoholics Anonymous, right? Certainly I've done that. I'm not going to deny you the chance to do it, right? Oh, I'll do this and I'll do this and I'll do that. We're talking about it. That I'm going to take what I like and leave the rest. No. I mean, you could do that, but it's misery. It's misery. It says, we continue, I think that's the word, to take personal inventory. And we continue, they use continue twice, so that you're not confused. I continue to look at myself, unceasing, unsparing self-evaluation. And I continue to set things right. I continue. when does continue end? Continue don't end. And then if you're confused about that, it says that we vigorously commence this way of living. When I got to Alcoholics Anonymous, it was a thing I did on the side. You know, I got here, I was 26. I still had on my teeth. I was going to get a new outfit and a new job and a new relationship, and I was going to shake the spot. I got here and there was a bunch, you know, I'm a young Black woman and there was a bunch of all white men. And I was like, absolutely, I'm not saying. And what is wrong with y'all? You've been here 10, 20 years. You've 8 or 12 steps. Come on, get it together, Grandpa. Because I didn't understand what this was. I thought it was a self-help program, but that's not what this is. It's a spiritual journey. And it gets deeper and richer and more beautiful and more profound if you do the work. Now you can come on here, Rick talked about it. Look, I wrote down good notes. Rick said that you carry the message, not in the way you talk, not in what you say, but in what you do. Oh, that's hard. Oh, that's hard. But here's one of the tricks of Alcoholics Anonymous, which is why I don't really like speaking. Because I think you can get caught up in talking and think that you're somebody. I'm another bozo on the bus, man. I intentionally come to meetings and talk about my crazy so that you can know that that's what it is. Not to say to people it doesn't get better. You don't know how crazy I was when I got here. I'm not as crazy as I was. Oh, but I'm still crazy. And it's okay. It's okay. It says we enter the world of the spirit. Oh, man. I'm going to give you an example. People have maybe heard me talk about this. I go in April to a place, Oakland, California, where I got sober. And there have been a series of, climate change. There have been a series of very odd weather issues. There was a cyclone in Oakland, California. And so there's water intrusion in the house and it's all this stuff. And I go and I'm going above and beyond what needs to be done to remedy some water damage in an apartment in a house that I own. And the guy the tenant is not being cooperative. See, because I have a story in my head, which is where all problems generate from. Yeah. The problem centers in my mind. So that I'm coming in and I'm replacing stuff and I'm nice. It's lovely. Like I live there, right? And he's like, oh, I'm sorry, I'm not available. I have to go to a football game. Excuse me, sir? And I get funky. And here's the thing about me. I don't have to have funky words for you to know that I'm funky. It emanates off of me. I don't know what to say about that, right? Like I shine a light. I also, it's a fire. When it gets hot, it's like a fire. And I call somebody and tell them that I'm really mad, Cyndi R. And the people who I love bust me in the face. If you don't have people that bust you in your face, get you some new friends. She bust me, like to the white meat, like blood didn't even come for a while. Like I was like, I think I've been hit. I said, well, I'm mad and I don't understand. Like, I'm just, how dare he? I don't understand. And she said, well, what do you want to understand, baby? And I was like, all of it. And then she was like, and this is it. This is it right here, the world of the spirit. Alice, you are standing in all the blessings. You own the house. You have the money. You have the car. You're standing in all the blessings that God gave you. That God gave you. And how can you be mad at the guy? What are you talking about? You're living in the abundance. In order to see that, I have to move from the human world to the spirit world. Because in the human world, 1 and 1 is 2. And how dare you? See, because I'm the judge, I'm the jury, I'm the executioner. In the book, it talks about all those forms of self. I don't have self-loathing real bad. I don't have self-pity real bad. But you know what I got? Self-righteousness. Oh, it's horrible. It's just horrible. And it's the same thing, just with a different face on it. So I'm not saying that like one is better than the other. It's just a different form of crazy. And then I could see how God had made me able to shine the light onto other souls. And rather than shine the light when the guy is afraid, right? Instead of doing that, I'm snippy. I'm judgmental. I'm unkind. I'm impatient. Oh, no, baby. See, love and tolerance is our code. And in order for me to be loving and to be tolerant, I must leave the human domain and move into the spirit domain. Because absent that surrender, that focus on God, I love the story about, like, you've been in Alcoholics Anonymous a long time. What you get? A few seconds, enough time to pause. That's hard, to move from my will to God's will. That's the world of the spirit. Let me keep going. I'm on page 84 of the book of Alcoholics Anonymous. It says it's not an overnight matter. It's not. Man, and then let me also say this. It's not even linear for me. It's not even linear. Sometimes I'm doing great. Sometimes not so good. Sometimes I'm doing great. Sometimes not so good. And there's nothing wrong with that. I'm human. Okay. And then it gives me some instructions. Here are the instructions right here in this first paragraph. 5 of them. I continue to watch. What am I watching? I'm watching for how I respond to world around me. Here's the thing that I say that the people who know me know I say. My friend Ann that's on here bought me a bag that said this. Ready? Ready? The question is not, why am I disturbed? The question is, why am I disturbable? See, because why I'm disturbed is what you did. Oh, and I'm going to tell a fabulous story about what you did and how you wrong. I'm going to nail you right up on the cross. I'm going to give you a crown of thorns. Oh, yeah, I'm going to have a story. The question is not what you did. The question is why I'm affected. So then I go back to the resentment inventory and I use that third column. And I look at the 7 parts of myself. That's how I figure out why I'm disturbable. Because my disturbability almost always have some fear underneath it. Not 100% of the time, but almost always, maybe always. And I've got to see that. So I have to watch, not what you're doing, but how I'm reacting and responding and feeling and thinking to what's happening around me. It doesn't matter what's happening around me. What matters is how I act. I ain't so good on sometime, man. I wasn't so good yesterday. I opened my mouth and said some stuff. And you know what's worse? You get here and you hear a long time and then you start using God to be mean to people. What? I sure did. I talked to somebody yesterday and I said to them, I pray for you that you have this experience that I'm having with you right now. I prayed that for you. What? I sure did. Because I'm not perfect. But I know that's wrong. And so then I'll fix it because I have to. Because I want to be free. The second instruction, it says that I ask God at once. So the next thing I do is I turn to God. So I watch for the things that always get me in trouble. What are the things that get me in trouble? Selfishness, dishonesty, resentment, fear. There are other things, right? Lust, the things get me in trouble. I watch for them. The second thing I do is I turn to God. The next thing I do is I tell somebody. We discuss with someone immediately. The next thing I do is I make amends. The next thing I do is I make amends. That's number 4. And then what have I done? I've set things right. But here's the magic sauce in 10. Ready for the magic sauce? I turn my attention resolutely to someone that I can help. Because if I don't do that last part of it, the 5th part of the instructions in 10, all I did was set it right. And this, my friends, is not a maintenance program. This, my friends, is a growth program. And unless I'm willing to do something to help somebody else, I didn't grow. I just corrected my error. And I don't want the recovery I had at 2 years. I don't want the recovery I had yesterday. The next paragraph is a whole series of promises. I'm not going to read them. You read them. They're amazing. They start at the bottom of 84. They continue on page 85. And then here it is. Ready? And this is how we react to what? The world around us. When, so long as we keep in fit spiritual condition. Now, you don't see it in there, but there's an if. If you do what you're supposed to do, you can react well to the world. If you don't, it ain't going to go well. There's an if there. Okay. And then it tells me these other things. There are things to help me understand what lies ahead. It's easy to let up on a spiritual program of action and to rest on our laurels. What are the laurels? The laurels are some things I did in the past that were good, great. I want to be like, oh, I'm such a good person. Like I gave my volatile, it don't matter what I did before. So this is a forward march, my friends, because that's where joy is. That's where happiness is. That's where freedom is. Freedom is okay, you're just going to get what I got. This is what I got. I believe, this is not in the book. This is what I believe. Y'all asked me to talk. I believe that I'm mistaken to believe that I am moving through time. Do you know why I believe I'm mistaken about that? Because I'm eternally in now. No matter where I am, it's now. It was now when I was somewhere 10 years ago. It'll be now in 20 years. It's always now. I'm perpetually in now. So I'm not moving through time. Time is moving through me. How about that part? How about that part? And if that's true, then I'm always a victim of my self-centeredness when I'm looking back in regret and I'm looking forward in anxiety. That the joy is in the moment, in now, in now. And how do I get it now? That's where God is, now. And so it requires that I not let up, that I keep trying to be present and to be of service to God and the people around me. And it says we're headed for trouble if we do let up on the program, because alcohol is subtle. See, alcohol is going to tell me to not keep my knees pressed together. Y'all should know what that means. It's going to tell me to spend some money I don't have. It's going to tell me to talk to people crazy. It's going to tell me some things. I'm diabetic. You know what it says? Go to Costco and get some cookies. It's going to, right? That I have to say, because when I'm not fit and I don't feel good, I'm going to seek ease and comfort outside myself. And it never works out for me. Y'all think I'm kidding. I'm telling you the truth. I'm not cured of alcoholism. See, I'm recovered from a seemingly hopeless state of mind and body, but I'm not cured. And don't be confused. I'm not recovering. I mean, maybe from some stuff, but not from alcoholism. What I am not cured, but I now have all the tools that I need to live in the sunlight. You got them too. They right here in the book. What we really have is daily reprieve contingent on the maintenance of our spiritual condition. Every day is a day that we must. You know, we'd be like, oh, AA has suggested. It's a day that we must carry the vision of God's will into all of our activities. Some of our activities, I got to Alcoholics Anonymous, I was willing to surrender my drinking, but I didn't want to surrender my finances and my sex life. I mean, you don't go too far, but all of my activities, all of them. Yeah. I mean, after all, God knows what we're doing all the time, guys. There's no hiding. So how do I best serve thee? Thy will might not be done, right? Over and over and over, the book tells us this. Okay. I want to go to the 12 and 12. I only want to talk about two things in the 12 and 12. That's what I'm going to do. So on page 92 of the 12 and 12, I have this circled because here's the deal. You ready? Finally, I love that Bill is funny. Finally, I mean, good Lord, girl, how long did it take you? Finally, we begin. We can't even see the whole thing. We just begin to see that all people, comma, including ourselves, he got to be clear about that, because when it's all people, I want to point at you. All people, including ourselves, are to some extent emotionally ill, as well as frequently wrong. What? Yeah, that's what I am. That's what I am. I'm emotionally ill and frequently wrong. Now, I don't think that in the moment when I'm judging you. I don't think that in the moment when I'm assassinating in my mind your character. I don't think that when you know what I mean? When I want the shortcut, when I want it my way, when how dare you, when I want to talk. That's not what I'm thinking, which is why I need them few seconds to get from my will to God's will, so that I can see myself. Unceasing, unsparing self-evaluation. That's what I got to have. So that I can see that I am occasionally, no. I am to some extent emotionally ill. Now, this makes me laugh because it makes me go back to the doctor's opinion. And in the doctor's opinion, Bill says, it's not all written by Silky. Bill says that we're like, what does he say? Thank you. We're in full flight from reality. We're outright mental defectives, right? He says that's true for some of us to some extent. In fact, for many of us to a great extent. He says something like that. And that's what this makes me think. To some extent, to a great extent, I am emotionally ill and frequently wrong. Then we approach true tolerance, and see what real love for our fellows actually means. You see, it takes me back to the sick man prayer, right? That the sick man prayer is not for the sick man prayer is for me. And when I can see that, like the sick man, I'm sick too, then I can be more kind and more forgiving and more patient and more, what's the word here? True tolerance. I can really love people. They don't need to be perfect because I'm not. So here's my defect. I have many, but here's the one I want to talk about. I got busted in the face about this morning by my sponsor. If you and I are in any kind of engagement and you do something that is sus to me, if the math don't math, if the math ain't mathing, I'm gonna just cut and run. I just need to tell you that. I'm just gonna cut and run. I'm just gonna stop messing with you. I'm gonna shake the spot. I'm gonna ghost you, all them things. And today, my sponsor said, well, Alice, that's not loving. That's not kind. I was like, well, it don't feel safe. Well, if God got you, then what's you worried about? And I had to really, and then Cyndi said something that, like, thank you, Cyndi, for punching me in the face on that. She said something and I could see it. And I had to text somebody and say, I'm sorry that I've been absent. Hopefully we can connect soon. Because when I get uncomfortable, God's already protecting me. I'm safe and protected. I don't have to shake the spot. People don't need to be perfect for me to love them. Because I'm not perfect and I want to be loved. Okay, I'm going to stop at this, page 93. We can try to stop making unreasonable demands upon those we love. This is grown-up stuff here, y'all. We can show kindness where we had shown none. This is easy to do when you like the people and they do what you want, and right? That's not what this is talking about. This is talking about to everybody. This 10-step in the 12 and 12 is a beautiful piece of literature. And Bill says, so this is what you want to do. You want to love a couple people, hate a couple people, and ignore everybody else. What kind of life is that? And so this is like, expand your net, baby. Think of everyone, cover everyone with this. We try to stop making unreasonable demands on the people we love. We try to show kindness where we had shown none. Them's the people we don't like or we're ignoring. With those we dislike, we can begin to practice justice and courtesy. Perhaps, going out of our way to understand and help them. So that's my thinking about the 10th step. The 10th step is this continuing to seek living fully in the surrender that allows me to be in the sunlight of the spirit, that allows me to be really shoulder to shoulder with you, not better, just a worker among workers, a friend among friends, a fellow among fellows. So thank you so much for having me. I want to just, in closing, thank the 10 people that make this meeting possible. My brother, Ali, Brandy, Tracy, I'm gonna botch names, Jen, Ann, in their absence, Kevin, Rodney, Tally for stepping in, Kuna, and Dasha. Thank you guys for making this possible.
Hi, everybody. My name is Evette W. I am a very, very, very grateful Al-Anon out of the San Francisco Bay Area in California. And I don't say Al-Anonic to be cute. I say Al-Anonic for a couple of reasons. The biggest is because one of the things that really had me separate myself from you when I got here was identification. I had been through more, I had done more, I had caused more harm, I had done all of these things. And I had a hard time sitting in the rooms. I joke that when I got into Al-Anon, I walked into my first meeting and there was one old lady crocheting in a corner and another one dead in the back, you know, because I was like the youngest one there by 30 years. And it really hit me. And I asked a longtime member of AA after I'd been here for a few years, you know, how come we didn't get that? I was just so mad. We didn't have promises. We didn't have coffee. We didn't have cigarettes in the front. I wanted all of those things. And so I was like, you know, we don't even say, you know, and he goes, well, we say it not just to identify, but it's so other people get identification. And so I try to identify because there are other people out there that go into rooms and see a little old lady crocheting and another one dead in the corner. And they don't know if they belong, if they're going to hear what they need to hear. You know, I secretly wanted to be in AA. My good friend who's here tonight likes to just tell me I just didn't try hard enough. But I didn't. But I am, full disclosure, big book based recovery. I went in, I tried another way and it didn't work for me. I was years in and wanted to die. And so I went big book based and that changed everything for me. So because Alice decided that she was going to just steal everything I was going to say, I'm going to go ahead and kind of take a different route and hope that it comes together. So I want to talk a little bit about the idea, the overall idea of maintenance steps, and this idea that you have to work everything a certain way. And I hear that a lot in the rooms that I'm in. I hear that a lot in Al-Anon, that people either are not working them and they're going, I've been here 10 years, I'm on step 3, and that's okay because I work it at my own way and pace. If I worked anything at my own way and pace, I'd be dead 10 times over. It doesn't work for me. And not only that, but working it at your own way and pace implies that you're actually working it, right? And so that just didn't work for me. And then I heard, well, these are the maintenance steps. And I found myself saying that sometimes when I would speak somewhere. I would go somewhere and people would go, the maintenance steps, they just keep you on this journey. And for me, my experience and Lois Wilson, Bill Wilson's wife, actually says it in the book Lois Remembers. She says, stagnation is retrogression. There is no standing still. And so if I'm just maintaining, I'm standing still, which, and in my experience, tenfold says I am incapable of doing that. That anytime I stand still for more than half a second in my program, anytime I rest on my laurels, I am backpedaling all the way. And before you know it, I'm drowning. And when I drown, and I take everybody around me down with me. And I want to also really quickly talk about, the absolutes. Like we are gifted that the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous details out exactly what you need to do a 10-step practice. It is a gift. It is a luxury, right? But make no mistake about it. There are no absolutes. They say there are no musts in the program, and they're not. But if you want what other people have, then you got to be willing to do what they do. And for my first 3 or 4 years, I was not. And that's just the reality. I wanted 12-step recovery on one step. And that was step 1, as I understood it. And step 1, as I understood it at the time, was everyone in my life is powerless over alcohol, and my wife had become unmanageable. And that's how I wanted to base my entire program. I wanted to base my entire program on the unmanageability of other people. And that's just not, I got exactly that because I got a program that went around the unmanageability of other people. And today I see things very differently. And the way I see it today is that the 12-step promises me spiritual awakening as a result of these steps. I don't get to work 11 of those steps and then say I have 12-step recovery in my life. I don't get to complain about how horrible my life is because the steps are not working the way that they used to when I have 11 steps going on in my life. And for me, the 10th step is always what I put down first because it requires humility. It requires me going to another person, somebody who may not even say a word to me, and telling them, I think I have so much recovery. I think I'm doing so much better than this. And look at all of the ways that I am not. And that is really hard for me. I am somebody who is prone to anger. That's like my go-to. I am quick to cuss people out. It's fun sometimes. I used to drive around in my car back when they had ashtrays and like it had pennies in it because I would just chuck them at people. And that was okay for me, right? But calling somebody and doing the big V word, like vulnerable in any way, not okay for me. And especially if that person, if I go, I called so-and-so, and then she had the nerve to tell me I couldn't speak to her like that. Like all of a sudden I'm the victim in this situation. And to have somebody who may just tell me, Evette, have you considered that you are A, B, C, D, E, F, G? I don't want to hear it, because sometimes I just want to be mad and I just want to be wrong. And then I want to be a victim about all of it. Right. And so I don't want to reach out to other people. And then I find that when I do reach out, I want to reach out to the people that are going to join my committee. Right. And the instructions in the big book tell us to reach out to somebody else. Right. Similar to God, myself, and another human being. Right. So I have to I have to humble myself enough to call somebody else. I have to tell them that I am completely giving into defects. I have to listen if they give me any considerations. Then I have to go and apologize, and I have to go help somebody else. Like 10 out of 10, do not recommend. Like completely, I just don't want to. And I'm gonna tell you guys a quick story. I used to work with a girl, and I hated her, as one does. And I she was just there, and she was not good at her job, and I was not her boss, so everything was wrong with the situation. And one day she really rubs me the wrong way. And I stand up and I get in her face. And I said, say one more, a few other explicits, word to me. And she kind of backs up and she looks at me, and I walk away, because I'm like, oh, that. And by the time I hit the conference room door, in my head, I'm fired, homeless, starving, on the street, right? Because I am just off the. And have you guys ever made a 10-step call and then had to make a 10-step call about your 10-step call? Because people try to fix it for you, and that's really infuriating, right? And so that happened. And I'm just done. I'm done with everything at this point. And I finally get a hold of my sponsor. How dare she have a life and stuff, and I finally get a hold of her, and I tell her what happens. And she goes, have you considered that you may not have shown up this way today, but you created a situation where she has to take stands like that in order to get a word in edgewise, because you have constantly bulldozed over her. And I thought, well, that's not a me problem, right? But it is a me problem, because I set the ball rolling, right? I did that. I constantly have stepped on the toes of my fellows. Then I wonder, well, today I didn't do that. And so how dare you? Because I did it last night, right? Like that is always the way that I approach things. And so I tell her this, and she goes, no. Nice try, but no. And then and so we finished talking now, and she goes, okay, well, now you're gonna go turn your thoughts. And I go, yeah. And I say something sarcastic, as one does. And just, hey, I'm gonna go help somebody else after work. I'm gonna go. And she goes, no, you're gonna go back to her, and you're gonna be of service to her. And I went, the hell I am. And she said, no, that's what you're gonna do. And I go, no, the F I'm not. And she says, well, why not? And I had to tell her something that I had been too afraid to say for a very long time. But I knew it was time. And that was because she had asked me, how would God have me be in this moment? And I knew that God would have me go in, make an apology, be kind, and ask if there was anything that I can do to make it right. I knew that, but I didn't want it. Online. And that's just the truth of the matter. I didn't want to. And so I finally told her, I don't know how to be with God and still want to punch her in the face. And that's where I'm at right now. Is that how can I go and be with God when I right now just want to punch her in the face and I can't see anything past that? How I'm not with God. And she said to me, I would argue that you are more with God if you want to punch her in the face and instead you go be helpful to her than you ever will be if your will aligns with God's. And that made sense to me. And it was the first time that something like that made sense to me. And so I did go to her. I bought her lunch. I apologized. I sat down, provided some comedic relief. And ever since, and our relationship was not great after that. But there was a mutual respect that was not there before that. And I no longer walked into the office every day waiting for her to say something or do something or throw something in my face, because it was gone. And I did nothing to make it gone except show up and just be honest that that was not who I wanted to be. And that I'm sorry I lost sight of that for a moment and it affected her, because that's the truth of the matter. Because I am still looking for the exact nature of my wrongs, right? Am I being a jerk? Yes, that's obvious. Am I being self-righteous? Absolutely. You know, am I holding her responsible for my inability to control my emotional nature? 100%. But the exact nature is that I am in complete and utter fear that she thinks she's better than me, and now everybody here is going to know it. And that's why I do what I do. Not because I care that she said something smart to me. It's because in that moment, all I heard was her telling me how better than me she was. And I believed her, and I reacted as such. And that's what I do. That is just what I do. So I kind of, because now I can't read the big book word for word, like, you know, because somebody else already covered it. So selfish. So, you know, one of the other things that I really drop the ball on a lot in my 10-step practice, where I constantly have to try and be willing to stand before God and do something different, is I like to do this really fun thing, I'm going to call 10 people. And I'm going to do my 10th step with these 10 people. And that is me finding God, instead of that is me seeking human aid. Because I want 6 of those people so I can call a group conscience on what I should do next. I want 6 of those people to tell me why it's okay that I go punch somebody in the face. And I will call 10 people who will tell me, man, I don't know how you didn't. And then I feel justified and then I get vindictive, and I got this committee behind me. And there is no God in that. In the big book, my favorite 2 lines ever are on pages 99 and 100. And it says, remind the prospect that his recovery is not dependent upon people. It is dependent upon his relationship with God. And I will constantly go for people and try to find recovery with them. And I will ignore anything that may have me need to show up with God, because I don't want to do that. I can't get what I want and be with God. And that's just the truth of the matter. I carried resentment around with me like an armor. And I thought it would change the people around me. People will treat me better if they knew that I would punch them in the face. Apparently, that's just the theme of this talk, is reasons why Evette wants to punch people in the face. So it's not hard to do. Let's just be honest here. So, you know, so I carried around like this armor. And to be fair, you know, I've been known to tell my sponsor that people didn't talk to me the way that they do today when they knew I would punch them in the face, right? And so I held on to them. And I carried it around and treated people as such, and looked at it as they would change the way they treat me because of my armor of resentment. And the only fact that happened in the middle of all of that was that I changed. I changed because of that resentment, not the people around me, not those that I was mad at. Most of them, it didn't even matter, right? But I changed. And I was tired of changing. I hear things all the time, like, my attitude depends on you. If you're nice to me, I'll be nice to you. And if you're mean to me, I'll be mean to you. And I got tired of living like that. right? I just wanted to be nice to people because that's who I wanted to be. And I didn't know how to do that. And for me, the 10th step process is how I do that. Because it's like a pressure valve, right? I'm relieving the pressure so I can see God is always in the pause for me. So I'm relieving the pressure so that I can see clearly what God would like me to do in these situations. Because I don't know. I will convince myself of 150 different things than the right thing at any given moment. I do want to take a second and read a couple of things. There's a book, an Al-Anon book, classic edition, Al-Anon Family Groups classic edition. And in it, there's about 10, 15 pages where Lois, Bill Wilson's wife, does a paragraph or two on each step and what it meant to her. And I like what she has to say about step 10. She says, "It is astounding how each time I take an inventory, I find new rationalization, not new information, not new resentments, not new rationalization." And that's what I do. I'm just looking for a way to rationalize my bad behavior. Some new way I have been pulling the wool over my own eyes. Nobody, I used to be so upset. They thought they I used to say that. They thought they pulled the wool over my eyes. They thought they could run something by me. They didn't know that what goes in, everything comes out in the wash. I used to say that. And all along, it was me. It was me doing that to me. Nobody lied to me as much as I lied to myself. And the biggest lie that I tell myself is that I don't need to take inventory constantly. I don't need to keep that constant eye out because I can see my disease. That's the biggest lie I tell myself, because I only see my disease as far as I want to see it. That's why I need to call other people, because God, for me, is generally wrapped up in a lot of swear words and direct talk from people I love. I was telling somebody, I called somebody a few months ago after my grandmother's celebration of life. And I call this man and I'm upset because I've seen my baby sister for the first time in a while, and it's very clear that she is drinking and on drugs. And I'm upset and I'm sad. And he goes, "Well, what did you do?" And I said, "I just loved her anyways." And he said, "Evette, that's a stupid effing thing to say. Of course you loved her anyways. Do you think that you just stopped loving her because you see her and she's drinking and on drugs? Now, why don't you tell me what you really did? Why don't you tell me about that look in your eyes when you've seen her? Why don't you tell me about all the ways that you look at her and she sees her shortcomings in your eyes?" Now, I don't want to hear that. I don't want to hear that. What I want to hear is, "Good for you, Evette. You detached with love. Good for you." I want a pat on the back. I want to, I was always more inclined to be a co-defendant than a codependent. And so I never got a chance to get, some brownie stickers. And I want my brownie sticker. That was nice. I didn't tell her how I felt. But how many people have I done that to? How many people have I looked at them and just smiled, but I stiffen up when they walk? Or wait, make a comment. "Oh, is that what you're wearing?" How many people do I do that to? And I don't want to say those things. I don't want to say those things to another human being. And you know why? Probably more than anything is because then I have to stop. Because if I come face to face with who I really am, then I have to stop. And I don't want to do that. I don't want to do that. So she continues, "It is so easy to fool oneself about motives, and admitting it is so hard, but so beneficial." And admitting it is so hard, right? But I don't know about you guys, but I didn't go through everything I went through to not have the guts to pick up a call and tell somebody the truth about what I did. Because then it was just for nothing, right? It was just for nothing. And I can also tell you that I did a 10th step recently, and I said something that I had only told to one other person in my life. And I barely know this person. And I said it. And do you know what happened? I felt free. And since then, I've said it 10 more times. I mean, probably not 10. I exaggerate. That's kind of one of my things, but it's all right. Roll with me. So I've said it because now the shame is gone. I did the hard part, and I get to just go free now. And I'll tell you, that's what I find more than anything else when I actually practice a full step 10 from start to finish, is that I get a reward that's far more than I ever deserve. And I don't say that self-pity martyr victim. I say that because I know who I was. And I know the harms that I've caused. And I know that the person that I am today gets a life that woman didn't deserve. It doesn't mean I am mad at her. It doesn't mean that, I'm pitying who I used to be or anything. It all got me here. And I get a life because of this practice that is far more than I ever deserve. And I'm okay with that. There is something that I think, at least in the rooms that I'm in, I don't hear a whole lot of the ramifications of not doing this step. I don't hear a whole lot of, I haven't made a 10-step call in 2 years and my life is now unmanageable. I don't hear that very often. I hear a lot of everything is great. This steps, so everything saved my life and now things are great. And somebody who's been around a long time, after I spoke one of the first times, she said to me, Evette, you talk about what it was like, and you got a lot of what it was like. And you talk about what you're like now, and you got a lot of what you were like now. But how come you don't ever share your struggle? And it's because people are willing to say those hard things to me that I recognize the false humility in a lot of my interactions. That I recognize that I don't always share the bad things. And then when nobody's there for me through them, I get to play the victim because nobody's called. And more often than not, it's because I don't make calls like this. I don't reach out to other people and say, I'm struggling and I don't know what to do. And then I walk into meetings and what I'm about to read to you happens and I'm pissed. How dare all of you guys sit here and do this when I'm dying, when people are dying, right? I'm just mad because I haven't relieved the pressure. And we have a daily reader, one day at a time. It's a sad day for an Al-Anon group when its members settle down into old-timer status and the meetings are mere get-togethers for a bit of chatting and gossip. That's what happens to me when I stop doing step 10s. Thank you. That's what happens to me, is I go to meetings and it is no longer about the solution. I go to meetings and I just want to chat. I just want to sit there and I want to tell everybody what I've been doing, how everything's great, what's all going on. And I stop carrying the solution. Do I think about the newcomer? Absolutely not. Do I think about the me in the room that's dying and just needs to hear a message of recovery? Absolutely not. Because I will do anything to convince the people around me that I'm great. When fact of the matter is, the first indication that I am in fact not great is that I haven't made any 10-step calls. And I'm lucky enough to belong to a group where there's about 100 women and that we're all in the same sponsorship line. And I made myself a promise that if ever I go to that group and I ask if there is anybody available for a 10-step call, that I will call whoever the first person is, that is who God would like me to call. And anything else is my judgment of who I should talk to. And I don't have good judgment. I know, right? So I do. And do you want to know how much it sucks to tell somebody you really don't like what you did wrong that day? You want to talk about humility? Oh my, I find myself wanting to call people and lie about why I needed a 10th step so that they won't. These are people I don't even like. And I'm sitting here worried about what they're going to think about me, or the times that when somebody reaches out to me and I don't want to answer because of who it is. that I may be robbing somebody of a message that God needs them to hear. You know, and I know that this is a step 10 talk, but I'll tell you, I heard a powerful step 1, 2, 3. I'm sorry, tradition 1, 2, 3 thing. And they said, don't ever say anything in the rooms that would stop somebody from reaching out to you when they meet somebody. The rest doesn't matter. Because then you stand in between them and God. And I'm not willing to do that. But yet I think I can just shit on people, excuse my French, and that all will be well. The last thing, so in short, if you heard nothing else, hear that I am a mess with this step, and I am just a absolute S show without it. And then also everything that the first 3 people said, I said that too. And then the final thing that I'm going to say is actually from the 3rd edition of the big book, and it's one of my most favorite things. On page 394, about halfway down, says, I wish I can tell you all that AA has done for me, all that I think and feel about AA, but it's something I have experienced and have never been able to put into words. I know that I must work at it as long as I live. I know that it is only by working at it that I can stay sober and have a happy life. It is an endless career. And then at the end of it, it says, the words of Dr. Bob and Bill are with me all the time. Dr. Bob said, love and service keeps us dry. And Bill said, always we must remember that our duty is face-to-face help for the alcoholic who still suffers. Dr. Bob tells about keeping it simple and not to loosen up. It is the last thing I ever heard him say. And I think that there are some of us who at times try to read extra messages and complexity into the steps. To me, AA is within reach of every alcoholic because it can be achieved in any walk of life and because the achievement is not ours, but God's. I feel that there is no situation too difficult, none too desperate, no unhappiness too great to be overcome. It is this great fellowship, Alcoholics Anonymous. And the reason why I read that is because this only comes true for me if I work all 12 steps. I don't get to walk around with 11-step recovery and then be mad at the program when it doesn't work. Thank you, guys.